too. I hope that you get a lot of really great insights from our panel today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dan Radu from the MarTechTO meetup, and he will be leading our panel today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to see so many people in sales and so many people in marketing coming together here and getting along. So, in my daily business, work both with sales and marketing operations, so I hear both sides of the story, so I'm very happy to see everybody come together. We're very excited to work with Enterprise Sales Forum. We run the marketing technology community here in Toronto, and today we'll be looking at how marketers buy. So, I have one interesting statistic that I want to start with here. There was a survey by Inside View that looked at some of the misalignments between sales and marketing and identified some of the top reasons why there's a misalignment. And I will share with you that 49% of people said that communication is the biggest problem, followed by 42% who said processes are flawed, and then finally 40% said they are measured by different metrics. So that's something interesting to think about. So today we look at how marketers buy. There's another CMO spend survey by Gartner, and they looked at, they said that the investment in marketing and marketing technology continues to grow, so it's usually around 10 to 13% of revenue at the moment. There's a big shift from offline to digital investment, from organic to paid, and there's a huge importance of video. So today we have a wonderful panel here. We have Evan Lewis from Post Beyond. We have Marty Giorgio from Resolver. We have Anne-Marie from Salesforce. We have Carlos from 24/7, and we have Evan Levin from Leap. So we're gonna start off by let's introduce ourselves. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell us about your role, tell us about your team, and tell us how did you evolve into your role. Here you go.
Cool. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Evan Lewis from Post Beyond, Director of Sales. I was the first sales hire at Post Beyond about 3 years ago. It's been a pretty crazy journey. Nat is obviously on our team. I guess I started a company right out of school, which is in the education tech space. That failed because we didn't sell anything. We didn't validate what we were building. So I came to Post Beyond essentially to learn how to sell, and it's been a pretty crazy journey. So we're about 30-ish people. I've raised a Series A and just trying to figure out how to scale our go-to-market. I think specifically, so for Post Beyond, we help organizations turn their employees into social brand ambassadors, essentially. So this is very timely because we help with sales and marketing alignment. So for marketers, they're looking to extend the reach of their content, help them deliver that to their employees, their sales team internally, and make it really easy for salespeople and people across the company to share that content to their personal social networks. So amplifying the reach of the brand through its trusted employees.
Thanks, Evan. I'm Mark. I'm with a company called Resolver. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer. So we've got an integrated sales and marketing team, which is very important to me. Revenue team, I guess you would call it, which helps with a lot of the metric alignments and following the full journey for buyers. I got into sales and marketing through sales. I've actually never done a marketing job. I've been CMO twice, VP of marketing, my first VP of marketing gig in the late 90s for .com. But I started in sales and I hated it, but it was a grind. I learned it. It was a really important part of my career, but I realized I'm a product person. So I got into demoing very, very early, and that led me into product, which led me into product marketing, which led me into basically a VP marketing role, and then from there, really value, especially with pragmatic marketing and all that kind of stuff, really value the concept of product fit. You can't sell anything if a market doesn't want to buy the stuff. And I think people really undervalue marketing's role from the strategic end, not the go-to-market stuff, which is really, really important, especially now with all the cool stuff out there in terms of tools and how people buy stuff. But the product fit is so key. And I think for me, people in marketing forget that, and that's ahead of sales. It's more strategic than sales. Sales is just a channel. It's one of your channels. It's not the channel. And I think companies overinvest in sales every day, 2 to 1. Sales is typically twice what the marketing investment is, and I think it's wrong. So I think there needs to be a lot more integration. So I'm really excited to talk about that kind of stuff here today. And we're recruiting, so if you want to talk to me after, love to talk to you. So there you go, Anne-Marie.
Cool. Hi, my name is Anne-Marie Goulet, and I'm at Salesforce. So I joined Salesforce about 8 months ago, and I'm leading their integrated function. So what that means is trying to drive alignment between sales and marketing, so speaking my language. And there currently doesn't exist any of that in Salesforce Canada. Over the past 9 months or so, they've carved Canada out from the US, so it's brand new. So it's funny, I was speaking to Evan earlier about how every job I go to, marketing is this new thing, which is mind-boggling. So I'm trying to educate our marketing team, our sales team about what does integrated marketing look like. So it's cross-channels, omni-channels, all these terms that we keep using. And so I cover campaigns, but also demand gen. So aligning our tactics up to a strategy that aligns to the buyer journey, really just to your point about product fit, ensuring that we're speaking their message at the right time, the right place. And our team right now, our marketing team is 15 total. My team went from 1 to now 5, and we're growing some more. Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mike. Carlos Araujo, anybody who can repeat that? Not the Brazilians that I see here. I might drink after. Not the Brazilians. Oh, somebody works with me. I worked in marketing back in my days in Brazil, moved to Canada 15 years ago, fell right into sales. Maybe it's because of my shy personality. And it became something natural to me. I grinded, as I mentioned before, for about 8 to 9 years. But I learned a lot and had the opportunity to move back into marketing. And ever since, 7, 8 years ago, the whole term demand generation wasn't even out there back then, but that was exactly what I wanted to do. People ask me why you chose to go back to marketing. And I always mention, because to me, marketing is sales 6, 12 months from now. It's just a matter of when it's happening. But if I always had the sales in my mind, I always had the sales as an out goal from the marketing, from my background. If what I'm doing today for the marketing does not result in the sales, from whatever time it is that the sales cycle is happening right now, I'm not being successful. So today when they ask how many people in sales, how many people in marketing, to me, everybody should be raising their hands in sales. Because we always say it doesn't matter even what role you are. But ultimately, as I mentioned, the fact that I worked in sales before, now in marketing, it's easier for me to correlate that and try to make that gap, bridge that gap between the two teams that not always get along well. But also being, as Mark pointed out, a lot of evolution today of what a marketer was 8, 10 years ago is very different than what it is today. Back in the day when you say I'm a data-driven marketer, people look at you like if you were from Mars. Today, if you're not data-driven, you're probably not doing right. So it's very interesting, and I always love when I engage with sales because I put my sales hat on and try to imagine how the conversation will go from there.
Hey everyone, my name is Evan Little. I run the growth marketing team at League. So I've been here for about 6 or 7 months now, so not all that long just yet. Our team's about 10 to 12 people, so we've been focusing the last little while on really building up the growth side of the company, and very much so we've been trying to frame this as much as a revenue team as possible. And so in past roles I've had, most of them have been similar stage companies as League in the B2B space. A lot of it was walking into more traditional sort of forms of marketing, and so as much as possible I tried not to refer to myself as a marketer and try to refer to myself as part of the revenue team or part of the acquisition team, because I think as soon as you mention the word marketing, there's like a sales and marketing sort of battle. So we're really trying to align our team as much as possible around straight revenue. We're after the same metrics, we're after the same goals. We're all just part of the same team. So we're trying to get to this world of having a chief revenue officer at some point to integrate the two, because I definitely think that's the future. So.
Thank you, everyone. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your team, what roles you have in your team, and also tell us a little bit about your marketing technology stack, what technologies you work with and plan to work with.
Sure, yeah, I'll keep this quick. So our marketing team is still fairly small, so not a lot to talk about there, and obviously I'm on the sales side, but from a technology perspective, we have experimented with a lot of stuff. So we use SalesLoft, we're big fans of Vidyard, so shout out to the folks at Vidyard here. We use Uberflip, we use Discover.org, so apparently their sponsorship work because Natalie just championed Discover.org with us. And obviously we use PostBeyond, so from a marketing perspective, getting our message out there through our people, those are kind of the key pillars.
Cool, yeah, so I've got the revenue team, so I've got sales and marketing. So marketing, I think, is around 15 people, sales is around, I think, 25. Work in units of production, so basically for every quota carrier, there's half an inside sales and half what we call solution engineer, the demo type people. And that'll push out basically a quota for a rep, which is basically $1.2 million for us. So we've got a bunch of those guys, people, I should say. I say guys generically. Generic pronoun. So, all right. The tech stack. So our spend. So we put about 7% of our marketing spend into tools, which is roughly the best practice, and 3/4 of it is Salesforce. But we flipped out Pardot, so we're going to MarTechTO, but it's.
You're gonna regret it.
Okay. Now confident, right? Now we got the confidence. No, we love Pardot. No, but 3/4 of the spend is with 2 big vendors, and then we've got about 20 tools that pick up the rest of it. That's our stack. What do you use?
Use something called sugar. I can't. No, I'm kidding. So my team right now, so marketing collectively is built of 3 functions. So campaigns, demand gen, events, and PR and communications. My team specifically is built of campaigns managers. So we span SMB up to enterprise. The other roles are product marketing, and then finally digital marketing, as well as junior marketers. So product marketing, campaigns, and digital are predominantly. In terms of tool stack, obviously Salesforce. All of our tools we acquired, I think, 120 last year, so clearly they're all Salesforce native or acquisitions. Salesforce obviously is using CRM, marketing cloud, Pardot. We use things like Quip, which is like Evernote. My team specifically, we're really big on the G Suite. And we're starting to onboard Engage and Pardot. Canada being a region is usually the last to get anything, so we're starting to onboard what we have in the US. So we operate very similar to many of the folks in the room who are startups. So we're learning as we go as well with our own products.
Rick, the group that I work with is primarily focused in industry and ABM programs. So we are a small team. As a marketing group, we're close to 60 people in the company, divided by product, SAs, the ADRs, BDRs also report to marketing. And we have also the content team as well, which is great. So, but our group here, the group that I work directly, is primarily demand gen, traditional, build the programs, execute the programs. So we have 4 people on the team and 5 with me. So we also responsible, we use the tech stack, it's Salesforce, MarTechTO, Engageo, Outreach, ZoomInfo, trying to think if there's more here. That's pretty much it. Then we go for the stack when it comes to not necessarily stack, but just the channels that we use. And we're looking to acquire a video player and also a content hub. Those are kind of the tools that we're looking to acquire.
You took that.
Yeah.
So our team's structured in 2 parts. We have the brand side, which focuses more on the content stuff, events, PR, that sort of thing. And then the growth side, my background is actually in sales operations and marketing operations, so I tend to be very close to the tools we buy and all of our operations and stuff. But we have someone focusing on digital marketing, someone on just like our website and CRO and that sort of thing. Our stack is, so we have Salesforce, we have Pardot, which is pretty good. I feel like we're squeezing it for everything it has right now, but it's great. We use a tool called Full Circle, which I'm a huge advocate for. It's an integration into Salesforce. I think Salesforce should buy them.
I'll let them know.
It's really, really good tool. It's really great for campaign attribution. I don't know how I've lived without it. It's really good with augmenting like the campaign side of Salesforce, which is cool. And then on the lead side, we use Drift, we use Vidyard, big fans of Vidyard. They have a great integration with Salesforce and Pardot that we've been using. Unbounce for all our landing pages, and then a bunch of others for like day-to-day analytics and stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, so
Sorry, as a non-marketer or salesperson, just a founder, what's the difference between sales and marketing story, and why do you guys argue so much?
well, some of
What's the
the
distinction between sales and marketing?
I can take that. I can take those words. Why do we argue so much?
I would think you love each other.
You would think so, right? Yeah. Again, total my opinion. I think a lot of the difficulties there today, marketing and sales, they start from the goals and objectives. In many situations, marketing usually the challenge that I think that the CRO mindset fixes, it's exactly that. Like ultimately, both teams should have the same goals. And in many situations, marketing has goals that are halfway towards sales, or basically there is the whole, I'm passing the baton out to sales, and now sales is supposed to bring it across the line. And that's where the fractions start to rise in many situations. When basically marketing is saying like, hey, I'm doing my part, you're not just bringing them close to the finish line right now. And the moment that starts, that's when I start finger-pointing situations and so forth. But the moment that is also part of the marketing responsibilities and rewards for that matter, like compensation plan and so forth, reflect that marketing is also responsible for revenue and has to have some kind of relationship to that, tied to it. That's my opinion. It makes it a lot easier to keep that conversation going and then absolutely be on the same boat. Now we're a team player, now it's just not me delivering something to you, now you do the next step. So it's the difference between a waterfall and the agile methodology approach in my view. All right? You're a CRO, so.
Yeah, I think I'd concur with all that stuff, but I think it comes down to metrics. I mean, at the end of the day, companies, founders need to add customers, they need to get revenue. That is the ultimate proof of that you've got something that the market wants to buy. I think there's a misalignment or disalignment between sales and marketing, and a lot of it is metrics driven and compensation related, and a lot of it is ego. I think salespeople are very emotional people. Marketers tend to be very data driven, and I think that is an interesting conflict. But it needs to be harnessed and put together, and I see it all the time. It drives me nuts. You see marketers, I got 6,000 views on this thing. It's like the worst content piece ever in the world. It had a great title, but it's useless. And you got 6,000 people downloading it, but nothing hit the funnel. And the thing with marketing, I think, is you can move the MQL definition up and down. You can make it 100 points, 40 points. Like you can play all day with the vanity, but sales is the ultimate proof to me. And I think the two of them need to be put together. But I think what people discount is that marketing is extremely strategic, very, very important. And I think that you need the market, you need the feedback from the market. And I don't think salespeople, they're great people to get the feedback, but I think it needs to be a product marketing function that feeds into how you're doing your pricing, what channels you're going to hit, how your messaging, your content, all that kind of stuff, all the pragmatic marketing kind of thing. And then sales is the execution, it's the thing that does the thing marketing said to get done. And I think the two of them need to be totally tied together. I just don't think they're done very well, frankly. And I'm a huge proponent of bringing it together. That works for our organization, but it might not work certainly wouldn't work for Salesforce necessarily. I think the teams are so large, you need to separate it at a certain point, but to me, they need to be tied together 100%. Oh, Anne-Marie has something to add.
I disagree 100%, I'm just kidding. So I agree with both of you. At Salesforce, the region is interesting in Canada. And so with my team, what I'm trying to say is marketing shouldn't be going away, creating a plan in a silo, and then doing this massive unveiling. So what we're trying to do is get all of our stakeholders at the table. So on day one, when we're trying to figure out what our go-to-market is to target SMB manufacturers, for example, we have campaigns SME. So the person leading the project, the person leading the go-to-market, we have our content person, our digital person, we have every single person at the table down to sales enablement, to our RVP. So it's a room of 10 people. It becomes a discussion. And then the SLA there between marketing and sales is that we're not going to marketing until we all leave the room in agreement with what our KPIs are. And then down to more tactical level is that when we go back to present our plan, we have our campaigns person, we have our RVP presenting it back. So it's no longer this marketing goes off on their own, sales goes off on their own, and then halfway through we hate each other. So I'm trying to build this foundation, and then we're already we're making strides already. So we have our RVP up there presenting back a campaign and speaking to his portion of it, or at least speaking to why this is important, why there's value add to his AEs at West in manufacturing, for example. So there's not this, we don't have a CRO position, but we have this notion that everyone's at the table at the same time, at the onset, in the middle, and at the end. And that's how you bring together that cross-functional omni-channel marketing.
Thank you. A question for Evan Lewis. Tell us about what you sell and who do you target?
Yeah, so our buyer typically is the VP of marketing, so it's fairly simple. And our mobilizer, the two key stakeholders are, the person who holds the budget, typically the VP of marketing, in some cases the CMO, SVP of marketing, and then the biggest thing for us is getting a mobilizer, right? We do enterprise sales where typically we have to have buy-in from 5, 6, 7 people, and usually the mobilizer is the manager of digital and social media. So those are kind of our two key stakeholders, and it's hugely important if you don't have a mobilizer who's going to bring the right people to the table, then you're not really in a deal. So those are our two key stakeholders.
And one follow-up question to you. What are some of the new sales strategies that you're trying to roll out?
Yeah, so it's interesting actually that when I saw this question, the sales strategies that I was brainstorming are actually more so marketing strategies. So it's kind of interesting how I think one of the reasons we may have faltered a little bit on our go-to-market in the last, say 18 months is because we haven't had alignment across sales and marketing, and they haven't been working as a unit. So a couple of things we're excited about. Number one is account-based marketing. So quality over quantity. We've tried to, last year we had customers in 18 different industries, so we're spread very thin. We're trying to really narrow that down, get way more specific with the people we're talking to, the pain points that we're trying to solve for them. So yeah, account-based marketing and really getting deeper into accounts, right? A big issue for sales has been we've been single-threaded, which is you're just working with one person in a deal, and if you don't have relationships with 4 to 5 people, again, you're probably not going to be able to drive a deal forward. So the way we think about sales and marketing alignment, the salesperson, like you said, is owning the relationship and the execution, but marketing helps with air cover, right? So if sales isn't getting exposure to the right stakeholders, marketing can help with that with targeted content within a specific account. So definitely excited about that, and we're using Drift. I'm really pushing for us to get Drift for to help with account-based marketing because we have a lot of content on our website, and there's the hesitation, like people don't want to fill out these forms anymore, right? Like, that's a very big proponent that gating content is kind of a way of the past. So I'm very big on this concept of conversation qualified leads. So if someone's not ready to fill out a form, but if we can hit them with a chat message that's hyper relevant to the page that they're on, maybe where they came from, I think Drift, this conversation piece, is kind of this middle layer that can help accelerate people and drive them to download an asset. Another thing really quickly is product qualified leads. So I know these are buzzwords, but product qualified leads is a pretty cool thing where the whole concept is trying to get people into your product, at least give them a little bit of a taste of what it is, what the experience is. And so let's say in a sales cycle, if a salesperson has some really high quality leads and they're saying, hey, I want to try before I buy, putting them into an experience where say it's a 2-week little test period, and the nice thing there is you can get more data, right? So you can say, hey, if I give you access to this, I can then look into the product and see, did that person actually go in? Did they log in multiple times? So you can get a sense of how real the buyer is based on how much they're using your product. So that's one thing I'm particularly excited about.
Very interesting work. Product qualified lead, interesting concept. I'm gonna think about that. Okay, so a question now for the marketing buyers here. What are some of the marketing strategies that you're trying to roll out? Maybe something like account-based marketing or employee engagement, or influence marketing. Anybody that wants to speak on that?
Sure. So I think for us, and I think a lot of companies, like you stuck in these like mass marketing engines in the last 5 years, the MarTechTOs or the Pardoffs and stuff like that. And I think, to me, buyers want a personalized experience, so that's one thing we're really working towards. They call it ABM or one-to-one or whatever, but like for us, we have, I was saying before, I think to Carlos, that we have almost no customer concentration. We have 1,000 customers. Not any customer is significant enough revenue that we'd be like, oh my God, a customer left, we're going to shut down the company. You know, the Fortune, you know, the top 100 customers we have, it's barely $1 million of our recurring revenue, which is like, you know, 3% of our recurring. And so I think that is good, and then it's also bad. It's like somehow we've totally missed out on an opportunity to sell more stuff to our existing base. So I think that is a combination of the one-to-one and a combination of going back to target account selling and have that account management philosophy and spreading, you know, the seed across the organization. So that's a huge thing for us. I think as well as, you know, the stuff we sell is very kind of old school. It's not, we don't sell to marketing people. We sell to a very pragmatic buyer, very risk averse. And we've acquired a bunch of companies in the last year, and breaking down those sales processes and that BANT mentality with the sales teams is like been my priority this year. So I think people buy with their unconscious brain, and I think what I've tried to instill within the organization is be the most helpful sales organization that you can be. And I love what Drift's doing, because the gate stuff is terrible. It's back to marketing, metrics stuff that doesn't matter. Like, if your content's good, they want to engage with you, they're going to hit the button and engage with you, full stop. It doesn't mean, the points thing doesn't really work. And I think, because our best leads are the ones that say, hey, yeah, contact me, I want to engage with you, I want to buy your stuff. And so that what Drift's doing is really interesting to me, and you know, give and gets, that social reciprocity, that exchange theory is really important to me, where if you give a little, oh, I want your pricing. And it's not a bank conversation, it's not like, well, do you have authority when you're going to buy stuff? It's, okay, here's your pricing, it's on our website. Like, that's like, I've answered all your questions, what are we doing now? And that's what I've tried to instill within the sales organization, and that's been a priority for me as well this year. From a tool standpoint, the Drift stuff's really cool. We've got some one-to-one priorities coming. I'll tell you this right now, if you're selling stuff to marketing or salespeople, there's a price elasticity with buying. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that I don't get. Like, we spent $135K with Salesforce, whatever, like, it seems to be worth it. There are vendors that do this much of what Salesforce does and want 50K from you. It's like, forget it. If you go to Drift, it's like 12K. I'm not even gonna like bat an eye. That's an easy conversation. There's no process around buying your stuff. But I think a lot of marketing tech is too overpriced right now. They have not found that value conversation. And I love the stuff that sits at a $10,000, $15,000 mark. Because I have people who can make those decisions without engaging VP or CRO on that. And I think there's a total missed opportunity there. I'll throw it over to anybody else who wants to answer that question.
Yeah, so getting back to the kind of main things we're going to be focusing on. So definitely the account-based stuff is the hot topic right now. One of the things that, kind of to your point, that we're just trying to rip out is this idea of this mass marketing. And Pardot, it's funny, like Pardot and these marketing automation systems have been designed to make our lives easier by being able to hit massive amounts of people through these automated campaigns that are super unpersonalized and stuff. And now it's going the complete opposite way. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they had this really fantastic line, which we're trying to really instill into the entire marketing team right now, which is we should be approaching marketing as hand-to-hand combat. Every single lead that comes in, every visitor, every community member, every blog visitor, or whatever, we should be hitting them one-to-one as they come into our system. Like, we should be triaging them all, not putting them into some lead nurturing messaging. That doesn't really work. It's really hard to actually find whether or not it works. Versus let's get them into salespeople's hands whenever they're ready and if they actually want to talk to us, and then try and surround them with as much content as possible for free without them giving up any more information. And so another good point there is like our buyers are also very risk averse, and so one of the things we're particularly excited about that we've been working on over the last month or so is just trying to surround them as much as possible with just good moments. And that's kind of coming back to why marketing, like the value of marketing and aligning them with sales, is that some of these things are not going to be bringing in net new leads or net new opportunities or anything, but it's a huge opportunity for us to just be part of the conversation. And so, you know, sales is struggling in Q4 to try and get some deals over the line. How can marketing get more involved to send packages out to the prospects or do some activities like that, just to kind of just join the conversation a little bit more, because our work isn't done once they're in the funnel. They'll say good luck. It's not going to work like that anymore. So
quick one. Account base for sure, but going back to your points as well, so personalization for us is a big one. We are trying to drink our own Kool-Aid. We are an AI company. We are talking about customer experience and customer engagement, so we are making sure that we wanted to make our prospects and customers to feel as customized as possible. But it is a challenge today. Technology is quickly evolving, so we can see that 5 years from now we're going to have a very different landscape today, especially on the gate and stuff like that, because we are going to be showcasing exactly what that person wants right in front of them at the same time. So it's just a matter of how to engage. And even that engagement in many ways can be automated or somewhat further down the road without actually a human touch anyway. So for us, it's something that is it's definitely our vision where we're heading towards. But yeah, today we're also looking into intent buying. There's a lot of technology on there promising to be able to provide prospects based on the intent and how they behave online through social channels, but also through other research. Try to hit that market exactly even before they go further now, so we can start showcasing in front of them more and more. But account based for us, it's from one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many aspects, pretty much the pyramid approach. That's our main focus right now.
Yeah, there's definitely an explosion of marketing technologies out there over the past 7 years. Actually, some years the number doubled. Is everybody familiar with the marketing technology landscape? Let's go home and look up marketing technology landscape. It's Scott Brinker, a very influential blogger. He tracks every year the marketing technologies that come up. So over the past 7 years, the number actually doubled year after year, almost. And right now we're just over 5,000. So we went actually from 3,500 to over 5,000 now. So actually that comes to 6 per business day. So there's 6 new widgets and solutions and softwares that do something for you in marketing. So there's a lot of options. As a marketer, you're bombarded every day with new buzzwords, new concepts, new widgets that try to do something. So let's talk a little bit about buying process. Tell us about your buying process at your company, and then you can tell us about some of the sales processes that you go through as a salesperson.
So I won't speak too much about Salesforce because, as you can imagine, it's very difficult, procurement being an HQ. So we don't do any buying out of Canada. So when you're going out to a regional hub, you have to think about it being a subsidiary. And so aside from that, if we were to table whether a tool is going to be effective, we have to ask, can you integrate with our system? Salesforce is extremely matrixed, it's complex. The amount of data that we have, you can only imagine. And so we have to ask, if you want to get this ramped up and stood up, can you do it without integrating right away? Can there be a phased approach? And so oftentimes the conversations are very short. It's really just a matter of understanding what technology is out there. So I'm going to talk about some of the experience I had in other companies, because most of the conversations are no at Salesforce. It really came down to, a couple of things. If you're at a startup, it really is the budget. What is the alignment with marketing and sales? Is there a need for it? And also too, just ensuring that the marketing goal and vision is aligned with the sales team. So just the same approach that I'm taking with Salesforce, where all of your stakeholders are at the same table, the same exact conversation I would have at my previous company. So for example, we were looking at demand-based for account-based marketing, best of breed, and we were trying to align our overall, we were doing, grassroots ABM, where it was, we were, customizing the graphic design ourselves, the landing pages on our own. And so really just trying to figure out what's the ROI of the product itself, and can you really sell the vision to your sales team? Can you sell to them, hey, the ROI or the, lessening the amount of time it's going to take for you to sell to these enterprise accounts, can you show them that vision? And so at a startup versus an enterprise company, you have different conflicting challenges, but at the same time though, if that communication between both sales and marketing teams aren't there, then it's just going to go nowhere. And then you end up playing this game of tennis. I send my salesperson, hey, can you get me X, Y, Z so I can sell back to my VP? They bring it back, but if that alignment's not there, it's just going to be that same game of back and forth tennis, and then it wastes the time of the rep on the other side of things.
So the way we look at it is when we first find a new issue or problem or whatever that we need to solve, it normally just comes down to how much does it actually hurt Because a lot of problems come up from marketers and stuff that will say like, I wish I could do this easier, I wish I could do this easier, and then we'll have like an honest conversation about it, of how much does it actually hurt, and if it hurts a lot, then we start looking at different tools that we can bring in. So a couple examples of that. One for like Vidyard, for instance, when we were first evaluating it, we were looking at, we have all of our webinars online and stuff, all the recordings and stuff, and we had no idea how much of the actual videos that people watched. And so they could watch 1 second, we still treat it as a lead. They could watch the entire thing, we treat it as a lead. That hurt a lot, that we didn't know how qualified these people were. If they watched the whole webinar, they probably want to talk to us. So that was an example. And one that was not so good is it doesn't hurt a lot, is someone brought a tool forward that like automated all the email signatures for your entire sales team. Like that's something that like you can totally do yourself and get away with it. It doesn't hurt that much to walk around to your sales team and make them put their email signatures in. More tools, more problems normally, unless there's some really, really big value behind it. So that's the way we approach it.
Yeah, I think for us, like I alluded to it earlier, like we have this like price elasticity decision process equation thing. So basically, if it's significant, you're going to get scrutinized to death as a vendor. So there's a couple of vendors around the one-to-one or ABM space that were, in that really uncomfortable investment amount category and too much, change management element, and scrutinized to death. But then, Vidyard, video Slack or slash email slash calls you and it's like 5K, you're like, yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. One of our values is experimentation in our organization, and we basically have discretion around having fun with tech, because we're a tech company, we want to try new stuff. And so Vidyard was in that category. I just picked up a tool the other day called Troops, which is awesome. Man, that thing is like changing my world. Like it's pretty much half my job done through AI, and it's awesome. And it was 8K. Like, how do you argue with that? But if they came to me and said, oh, it's 50K and it's gonna be like a 3-week implementation, I was actually getting the value conversation like the next day. Actually, it was free for this. They just let us use it. Their trial process was hilarious because they just kind of let you use the actual product. And so we actually had totally installed. To rip it out would have cost a fortune because everybody was so reliant on it. So it was brilliant. And it's kind of like Slack. Slack was the other one like that for us. Not really a marketing tool, but marketing drove it. And it's like, you couldn't argue with the price. Like you just couldn't, like there was no conversation. There was no reference calls. There was no conversation around negotiation on anything. It was just like, how much is it? Like, yeah, we're totally signed up. And so I think there is that conversation, like we'll become much more structured at a certain price point, and there's a lot of tools I'm not comfortable with. And so I go to my network, like we're part of a company called, or a VC called Fast Capital, so there's like 20 portfolio companies, and I can call up any of them and say, hey, did you have experience with this tool? Yeah, we used it and we didn't renew it. It's like, you're dead, forget it, I'm not even gonna talk to you. If you didn't renew that thing, it's like obviously there's no value. So you start, depending on that validation from your network, and it becomes uncomfortable at that $20, $30, $40, $50,000 price point. So all of a sudden things change for us on price.
So I guess as a salesperson, if you want to test your skills, try to sell to this guy.
Yeah. Do not call me on the phone, I'll tell you that. So.
So for us, just from a sales perspective, I mean, a big shift that we made about a year ago was structuring our sales process according to how people like to buy, which is a big thing, so coming at it from the buyer's lens. So the 3 kind of main stages in our sales funnel, after someone's had an initial call and they put their hand up, so we have a discovery call, 45 minutes, typically it's focused, it's a little bit of product, but more so just the account executive trying to evaluate fit. Next stage is evaluation, so typically you're talking to one person on a discovery call. If you're lucky, it's a couple, but usually if that mobilizer is real about buying your solution, they're gonna bring the right people to the table. So usually in an evaluation, you'll have a stakeholder demo, and you'll be catering to a few different people. The most important part for us is the alignment stage. So we call it, that's stage 4 for us, and it's aligning on a business case, right? So whenever you're buying a piece of technology, there has to be a very clear value prop and a business case and my job and what we try to do as a sales organization is be as helpful as possible. We know that there's internal selling and convincing, to Emery's point, that has to happen, So how do we make sure that our mobilizer they have everything they need and they feel super confident, and they've agreed to do that internal sell, and so we really focus on building a business case that's anchored in a challenge, right? To Evan's point about if there's no pain, they're not going to buy. And so what we love to do with the business cases that we create, and we do this collaboratively, so it's not the salesperson that just like throws together a deck and then gives it to the person to sell. We get the mobilizer to buy in, and we build the business case together so that they're invested in that. And ideally, it's their words on the page. So one of the most effective things that we do in what we call program design session. So essentially, once they're familiar with the technology, let's build a program together that they're going to then sell internally. And the most important thing is problem articulation. So I always ask 4 questions, and it's kind of awkward sometimes, but I ask people, and I'm the scribe on these calls, so I say, the challenge we're aiming to solve is blank, and then they have to say it. This challenge is hindering us from hitting our company goals of blank. If we do not solve this problem, we will blank. And this problem is a priority now because blank. And if they will open up and give you those 4 things, you can then hold them accountable to that, right? Because they've said this is, you have all the things that you need to really anchor the business case, and everything stems from that. I'd love to hear feedback on it. Does that make sense? Like,
You're wrong, Evan.
That would make life so much easier.
Yeah, well, question.
Sorry, I feel like each member of the panel kind of leans towards like marketing or sales. I could be wrong, but from each of you, what do you think like the biggest misconception is about that marketing has about sales and that sales has about marketing? That makes sense.
Biggest misconceptions about the two. Well,
This lead is shit.
I think the biggest misconception is that we're going towards different goals. What I've learned over the past 8 months at Salesforce is that we do have the exact same goals. But one of the questions earlier I was thinking about, but I thought that came to me was, the biggest thing with any relationship, whether it's personal or professional, is the communication aspect. So just like how I went with my team, we're at the onset of any program, it's around how are we all saying yes at the table or having friendly discussions, so that we are driving towards the same goal. So half the time we are, but we're doing it in different ways, and we're not talking to each other. And because when you get a big matrix company like Salesforce, but even smaller ones, where marketing goes off in a silo and does stuff, there's not that synchronous communication back and forth. So I think that's the biggest misconception. But then when you get people in a room, you're like, oh yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. But it's just ensuring that cadence of communication, being comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations, and prioritizing the people aspect of it. And not just about the leads and the data and all that kind of stuff. It's really about building the trust, building communication. That's what I've seen the biggest strides in our team so far.
And Mark, I'm going to provoke you a little bit now. If that lead is shit, it is shit.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go anywhere. So even if it is not, but if the perception, if it is that it is, it's not going to go anywhere. So, and I think that's part of exactly the misconception goes back to marketing things in many ways that, hey, I'm delivering this Glenn Ross lead. That's old school, right? The perfect lead set up for the sales team right now, because we talked about lead scoring, goes back to the whole conversation. The lead scoring meet all the criteria, everything is perfect, everything. All they have to do now is just to bring it home, right? And it's far from being true, right? We all know that. But also on the sales side, basically they all think like, hey, marketing is a big party, man. Or they have all these big budgets, and all they have to do is to come up with these great events and spend as much money. They don't have the responsibility and accountability that I have to bring back bacon.
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to that misconception where sometimes it's founded and most times it's not, but it goes back to the communication and understanding. Bring back to the table, let's all be here on the same, be accountable for the same thing. I think it goes back to the metrics again. It goes back to the point like, I'm responsible for doing this and you're not doing your part of the deal. So a lot of the times, as long as the deal is the same, it should be easier conversation.
I mean, just to that point, like to me, the ideal funnel shape is a whistle funnel, one deal closed, one lead. That is ultimately what marketing needs to get to. like right now we're at one deal is 5 ops is 25 MQLs. We know an MQL costs $500, and that's basically what we drive is the MQL. But I think the minute marketing can get to one lead, one close, we basically hit that Smith like perfect market condition, and we're miles from that. But that should be marketing's goal. Basically, it's not quantity at all. It should be just the acceptance of that and all that kind of stuff. But I do think marketing, they are like in our organization as well. It's like marketing's fun. You get the balloons and you get the swag. But I think marketing has a role, a very important role, with the culture of the organization. You are the voice. You're the narrative. You're the tone. And I think that is easy to discount, but I think it's so important. And I think probably the most important function of marketing is not measurable. It's that piece. They are the energy in the organization. I think sales has a tough job. It's so easy to fire. If you don't hit your number, you're out. But marketing, and that's a lot of pressure, right? But it's I think marketing has that role in the organization to be the uplifting and that culture voice. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to offer there.
I would say, I guess one misconception would be for marketers don't necessarily think that salespeople know anything about marketing, and I guess I would believe that the best salespeople think like marketers, right? We're definitely in the camp that, if you're going to buy from someone, you're going to go to that person's LinkedIn, you're going to check them out on Twitter, you're going to get a sense of who they are as a person, what type of content they're sharing, and you're going to make a judgment call on whether or not that person is can market themselves ultimately, right, and has a strong personal brand. So I think we're definitely in the belief that if salespeople do think like marketers, it's going to help them, amongst all the other salespeople that might be trying to sell. If someone has a really strong personal brand and they have a strong voice online, then I think that's going to help them drive deals forward.
In the decision-making process when you buy marketing technologies, do you engage other departments? Do you bring in people from sales, from IT, or from operations to have a say to give their thoughts, evaluate?
Sales organization, if your sales costs are equal to the recurring revenue you get in that first year, that is like the best in class. So it's $1 for $1. You don't make your money until the 2nd through 9th year of that customer life cycle. And so you obviously have to make sure you do a good job with that stuff. So we heavily integrate operations into our tech stack, and it's all Salesforce stuff, but it goes all the way through for sure. So yeah, we definitely engage. And we market all the way through that life cycle. That's really important for us, because one of the things we were trying to do is stop selling enterprise. We sell in a single use case, get the thing landed, and then, as we call land and expand or whatever, but just sell more stuff after the fact. And that is a huge part of our strategy, just to sell a $40,000 transaction and get the extra $200,000-$300,000 over the life of the customer.
The only thing I'd kind of add is the only other party that we include it for buying a marketing tool is sales. Like I find that if marketing buys a tool in silo, it ends up falling flat. Because it's generally like everything we're using that tool for is generally to feed the sales team. So as early as we can involve, and probably it's a good tip for salespeople selling to marketers, is you can get a salesperson on the call too, just so they understand the value. They can understand what different parts are actually going to be helpful to them. That also kind of helps the sales marketing relationship. We're not just spending like pirates. We're trying to invest in an area that's going to help sales, and it's going to be a kind of cross-functional thing. So we try to do that as early as possible whenever we're looking at different tools.
Now I have a question. I know it's Carl's special question. How much research do you do in advance for a vendor before you request a demo?
You guys can answer that.
No,
mine is easy. None. I'm the official tire kicker. And that goes back to, I have no problem in saying that. I do like take demos. I do probably 5%. I go on the website, check it out. If it is too long, if there is a fact sheet, a product sheet, I don't even bother. I go for the messaging, like this is a problem that it claims to solve, or this is an opportunity that claims to improve my efficiency, my effectiveness. I'm willing to give it a try. So if it piques my interest right away, so then I'll go, put a request for a demo. I get the typical disco call, 10 minutes, why are you doing this? What are you trying to solve? You can do this now. I go through it, no problem. And then actually then go to the demo, like probably a day or two after, because the BDRs are like, yeah, I got it, that's it, awesome. No, you didn't. and that's basically it. Like we all go through it. We were just talking earlier today that we all know, like, oh, the 70% of research today is done prior to connect with the salesperson. Yeah, and as a marketer, I live by that as well. And obviously, we try to provide as much information as we can up front, but not everybody goes through the same process all the time. And that's the problem with the funnel. We think that everybody goes through the funnel the same way, not even close. Not even close. So demo to me is actually a very early stage conversation that I'm having, even to see if that solution might be something that I want to try someday. So it's just one of the things that I thought it's a myth in many ways, at least for me is, and more people that I learn from, especially if I am tech kind of person that likes to hear what's going on, what's new, what's happening. So then I can be the reference down the road. Say, I just tried something really cool today. I might not even buy it, but now I might become an advertiser for you if I thought it was cool. Like today, how many people heard about Drift, right? I heard of them a long time ago, and everybody knows about it. There's another cool tools all over the place that I know about it. I don't have it yet, but I know about it. I'm happy to share with you guys. But that's just who I am. So that would be interesting.
Yes, I'm the 100% opposite of that.
There you go.
Polar opposite. I do as much possible research beforehand as I can, to the point where I pretty much know who I'm going to go with. So I'm generally of the opinion there's not enough sales information on websites, that you can only get the marketing stuff and you can't actually get the real good stuff. So what I tend to do is I'll find my top 3. I'll normally talk to different companies who use them beforehand, before I do the demo process. Then I'll request a demo, and if I don't hear back within the day, I'll normally send an email to their sales thing and just write out a massive list of everything I need to evaluate it. So I'm of the opinion that the sales, the actual marketing site should just have a massive section just dedicated to, here's everything related to our buying cycle, here's the costing information, here's exactly how it's going to help, here's something that isn't just like a logo slide, but actually like different people that are advocates that you can talk to and validate the software with and everything, so I can do as much upfront work as possible. Because normally when I request a demo, you might hear back the same day or whatever, and then you get an hour in your calendar for the next day, which I never ever do need an hour for the first call, which is also pet peeve. But
question on that, what makes the salesperson stand out, assuming you get demos from those 3 people?
Yeah, so if they respond right away, and they hit up all my questions normally, and they just want to jump on a 15-minute call, I'm a big fan of the 15-minute call. Just to get on board, you chat with them quickly, and then you ask for everything I want emailed. I don't generally like to see like the deck and everything, so if you just email me everything you have, like literally everything you have, and then I can just carve through it afterwards. It's the one where it's like, let's get on the hour call, and then they take me through the deck of like all their successful customers and the logos, and before they actually dive into the software, that's what makes it a really bad process. So just, I guess, coming back to your point, is everyone learns differently, everyone has a different approach. You just don't assume everyone fits the cookie cutter.
Can you tell us even a little bit about your research process and how do you prepare for discovery calls?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, you can see what we're dealing with, 2 completely different approaches. So it's, yeah, it's tough, obviously, but definitely you have to know who you're talking to, right? If the nice thing about the world we live in right now is you can know pretty much everything about a person, assuming they have, LinkedIn. In a meeting last week, I was like checking out the guy's Instagram. It's like borderline creepy, but you're learning about the person, right? And that's the biggest thing in a first call is, can you establish trust, right? Can you get the person to like you and trust you, and can you build a personal connection? Because products aside, that's what drives things forward. Is if the person thinks that you bring some real value to the table and you're an expert in what you do. So yeah, I mean, my kind of golden rules for discovery calls, 5 questions. If you're not going into any sales call with 5 questions that you could ask, you're probably not prepared. So I always like to say 5 questions and 1 goal. Like, what's your goal for the call? And what are you trying to get out of it? And then also ask the person that you're talking to, like, what's their goal, right? What are they trying? So that's the way that you can flag for, for Evan, if he really wants to get into the product and he's a super savvy guy, like you have to be nimble and do a completely different approach. So making sure that you're setting, you set your itinerary that typically, like, here's how we typically go through things, but, and then you ask them at the start of the call, is there anything that you want to make sure we cover? And if they, throw a curveball at you, you have to be able to adapt, but definitely, going in with insights about the person, about the problems that they might be facing, and trying to be empathetic too. That's the other thing. Making it, not necessarily saying, hey, we work with all these other customers, but I've sold to a lot of people in your type of role, and typically they have these problems. So kind of leveling with them in that way and kind of getting into some real talk is definitely helpful.
Okay, we're getting to our last couple of questions here. Okay, quick one. What do you think about online reviews?
Yeah, I think customer evidence is so key. I think people they have more confidence. We have a very risk-averse buyer, and I think customer evidence is really important. And it's still a market that we sell to, has a market that is influenced by the bullshit magic quadrant stuff. They have to put like 100, 200 grand into Gartner or whatever to get on the quadrant. They still buy that way. They want the CYA, see boss, I bought the thing that was in the top right. That's really important. So we need to do that. We need to do customer reviews. It's an unfortunate fact. I think people want to be, there's safety in numbers, and I think people want that comfort. So I think it's, as a person selling to a buyer, it's a very important thing. As a buyer, I don't really care. I think my immediate network is important. So if you say you're used by somebody I know, I'm going to call that person and find out how it's going. So don't I hate the logo parade stuff. Don't do the marquee, 15,000 companies use our stuff. Who cares? And if you drop a logo and I happen to know that person and we have a conversation and your stuff doesn't work, it's over, right? So I think you have to be really, really careful about some of that stuff. So.
I'm good. To your point, personally, if I see something, testimonial on our website, I find that's neat, but that doesn't really sway me. It's more about my personal network and people that are using the tool or people that can refer me to. That to me is way more important. But at the same time, we understand the value that it has for others, because again, everybody, it's different too. So, especially in the enterprise sales, it becomes very challenging because you don't have the numbers necessarily, and sometimes it's also one person or multiple users anyway. So it's always challenging, but it doesn't hurt. I don't think it hurts anybody, but it's not what I go by.
For me, it would be, customer reviews are like anything else. Take it with a grain of salt. I think there's a lot of value in them, but when I'm looking at them, it's, well, what are they saying? What is their experience? So when we were assessing tools like Demandbase, which was a huge investment for Tulip, I wasn't interested in the pros or the cons. It was how did you stand it up? What was your strategy around it? How did you practically roll it out to your company versus the good, the bad? More around, did it make a difference? And what was the sales process? What was the strategy process around all of that you could get that from Demandbase or Salesforce, but it's going to be within those lenses. So asking more around how do they stand it up? Who are the people at the table? What was the experience really like? What are the things that you recommend against or recommend for? With Salesforce, one of the biggest things is that in Canada we battle against the notion of we're just American, we're this big company and we don't understand small business and it's hard, it's expensive, it's all these things. One of the biggest things is you have to rely on your network of system integrators, and there's a whole admin community. So we're trying to sell it from, the value added. And so from my experience in the past, having been the customer of Salesforce, I went to a lot of folks who had stood it up and asked about, what was the day 1 to day 365, what did that look like? What are the things that we needed to watch out for? So I came into Salesforce with that in mind. So I can imagine what that's like from a Canadian customer perspective versus an American customer perspective. So,
Great. So, in conclusion, some of the closing questions that I want to pose. My closing question is, where do you think we'll be in 3 and 5 years? Do you think sales and marketing will just be one process?
I hope so. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that. Other than, yeah, I'm definitely a believer in the CRO approach and growth and making sure. I mean, I don't think anyone can predict where we're going to be in 3 to 5 years, but definitely, sales and marketing and in a lot of cases, customer success operating as a unit is hugely important for companies to scale.
Yeah, definitely one unit for sure. I think AI is going to have a huge impact at the very top of the funnel, and that's going to, I think, squeeze the role of sales quite a bit. And I think in doing that, making marketing that much more strategic and important to the organization.
Yeah, even at Salesforce, I mean, they're trying to institute this new way of going to market. So we have a massive spend when it comes to events and digital, and there's this notion at Salesforce, literally this moment post Dreamforce, where we are willing to forego pipe generating activities in exchange for high quality activations and engagements. So it's that one-to-one marketing that I think you had mentioned earlier. And so even a company as large as Salesforce is actually willing to move towards, hey, let's not, spray and pray or whatever, but they're actually willing to go towards a direction where marketing and sales is actually moving side by side. And Canada being a small region, a small team, we can build that framework for it. So we absolutely see that, but it honestly is built within education and communication and the alignment early stages. Sounds very theoretical and esoteric, but it's not. It's in those nuanced conversations, those meetings that you have in the hallway, where if you leave that room feeling dubious, well, that's going to carry through your campaigns or your go-to-market. So it's really building that foundation of trust with your sales partners and then folding them into that overall product or sort of a program. And then you will have this big group, just this one group.
Yeah, I don't know 3-5 years, but 10. I see, and I hope, I'm still in the same role today, but actually in a position there where there will be this role in the department that, for example, as a marketer, you actually have the variable compensation that the salespeople have today. Like you have the base and variable, so it's 100% based on the results that you're driving or your program is driving on. Then you have a vertical specific, it's all this group that you're doing. Everybody there, it's attached to that total revenue. That is driven. So I had this dream that one day a marketer can say like, oh, I have a $50,000 base and a $50,000 variable, just like a salesperson would have. I imagine that being the case. And then the salesperson will be doing the same thing because then we force salespeople to become more as a marketer as well, understand what it goes with in the marketing too. So AI is going to be, I think, is a game changer within the 3-5 years from now. Don't know exactly what's going to happen yet. But 10 years from now, I think it's the mindset a lot, still going to be marketing, sales. But the moment they start changing more like, oh, we are part of the revenue unit rather than the marketing unit and the sales unit, then they start getting better and better. So I hope that 10 years from now, we're having this kind of conversation.
Yeah, nothing much to add to that. I think they're going to come together. I think there's always going to be one aspect of marketing that is non-revenue generating, like to what we were saying about how there's still like this internal advocacy that marketing is responsible for. If you take out the revenue aspect of sales, there's no sales. Take out the revenue aspect of marketing, there's still marketing, you still have a website, you still have PR, you still have those other activities. So I think that will still exist, whatever it's called. It may not be marketing anymore, but I think it's going to have to all be under one unit.
Thank you. We would love to hear from the audience. We'd love to hear some questions from you for our panelists. Natalie's going to go around.
Yeah, if everyone's willing to stay a few more minutes, we're all about audience participation.
Question for Mark. When you buy a piece of like a marketing tool, does it always generate incremental sales? And do those incremental sales generate a positive ROI? Like, does the software pay for itself?
I think it's lost our mic, but if you can hear me okay. So I think the measurement is so important because I think there's a conversion conversation, and the conversion is a lead source conversion. So some lead sources convert faster than others. And then there's a velocity conversation. How quickly do those leads turn? So for example, I can tell you right now, 90% of my funnel is marketing, but it's only 2/3 of my deals. So what are the 1/3 of the deal? Well, it's advocacy. Well, how long is the sales cycle on advocacy? Well, it's half the time. There's no marketing velocity. It's all sales velocity, and the sales is half of what it is for marketing. So therefore, smart guy, you got to do more advocacy, right? That's the ultimate conclusion. But then there's not enough advocates, and then you go back to you need to do stuff with marketing. So what I'm trying to get to is that basically everything we spend money on has basically a cost, and then we're able to attribute. In most cases, we've had trouble with attribution, but most cases you should be able to do first and last attribution at least, and figure out where you're spending money and what that conversion is. So I can tell you what our Google paid spend yields. I can tell you what our LinkedIn spend yields. Like for example, we spend a lot of money with LinkedIn. It's fantastic for converted leads, not good for MQLs. So it actually takes 2 years for a lead from LinkedIn to actually hit the funnel. And that's because our MQL scores are so high, the criteria is so high to engage sales, and we want people to self-consume that I have not had any results from my LinkedIn spend for 2 years. But I know that that's the thing that's building my nurture funnel, so I'm not going to give up on it. So you have to kind of be able to figure out by lead source and velocity what the payback is, and you need time. Like marketing, at least the stuff we sell takes forever. So yeah.
No, I was just about to say like consistency is also key to me when it comes to marketing. There's always the flavor of the month and the right now that we need to do, but consistency, long-term programs like 18 months, 24 months, that's when you actually start seeing the benefits of the scale that you do.
Question here?
Hi.
Can you stand up and
That's all.
Start talking.
We're right here, you can just say it. Okay. Good.
Hi, my name is Munir. I'm CTO at CloudLincoln. So what would you say are some of the top challenges or problems that you see with your current technology stack? And also, what do you see as some of the possible opportunities?
I can say that with one we're working to solve right now, we haven't found a great piece of software yet to solve it. And I think it's going to be like the age of AI as it starts working into marketing a little bit more. But lead enrichment is a really big challenge, kind of always, just because databases are not that up to date. You always get crappy records. Data.com is not that solid. DNB is not that solid. Like we've tried a whole bunch of them, and we don't really get like the full amount that we really want. But that we know we're burning a lot of cycles on right now. Is enriching leads, making sure it has enough data so we know whether or not we should be going after them at all. It's this balance of when you use LinkedIn or whatever, you get a certain amount of information, but you want to reduce the amount of forms on different landing pages and whatever. To reduce the friction, you get less data. You don't know if the sales team should hit them. It sits there for a long time waiting to be hit. So that's an active problem we're trying to solve right now. It's just like how do we make our data more rich in an intelligent way, not just the way it's been done the last 10 years.
Yeah, for me, it's probably the same stuff, but attribution's a huge thing. Like trying to follow the buying cycle, and one exercise that's so much fun is take your last, H1's deals, if it's 5 deals or 500 deals, and map that journey, and you'll learn so much. Like I haven't found the tool that does it very well, so we just kind of draw it out and stuff, but to figure out where the inflection points were and where people responded and how long it took, from MQL, first disco call to demo to providing proposal to verbal to contract. Those are roughly our sales stages. That is enlightening for us. Like that is so cool. We went through that. I haven't found a tool that does that stuff, but that and attribution for us is a big challenge.
Same.
Okay. Same.
Yeah, attribution mark, same thing.
I have a quick one.
Oh, probably.
Just give me a dashboard, I can see everything. That's all I hear. Like anytime you come to my desk, I have like 8 windows open, right?
Forget it.
It's a big challenge. But if you give me a dashboard and see everything, that'll be a dream come true.
There's this thing called Salesforce.
as long as you buy 37 apps on App Exchange and attach it to it, sure. But even that's not close. Right? But again, like it doesn't give, now with the Google announcement maybe, but like Salesforce doesn't drive the traffic on the website, the analytics that you get, everything. So you always have at least 3-4 windows just to see how we track. So.
Last couple of questions. Last couple of one. And then
Yeah, just a question for the marketers. Just wondering if you have a pet peeve in particular that you maybe experienced through the sales outreach process or through the sales cycle that just really is a deal breaker or turns you off. If you can maybe speak to that.
So definitely my biggest one, and I'm surprised it hasn't come up more, but I don't understand why people leave voicemails. So especially like on a desk phone, maybe, on a mobile phone, like the experience to delete a voicemail is so hard, and if you have that notification on it, you have to go through your whole thing and like hit 7 to delete it or whatever, and there's no way that anyone actually listens to them. So if you, I don't mind cold calls, I just won't pick up. But if you leave a voicemail, then it's just like, then that really pisses me off because I'm not going to listen to it. Just email me.
Can I answer this? I feel so strong. Honestly, just because I downloaded your white paper does not give you permission to stalk me for like the next month. Okay?
Actually, it does.
We
do.
emails from like 10 different people. It's like, I just wanted to read the article.
Yeah, I agree.
No, a quick one on pet peeve, like voicemail, don't bother. My voicemail says don't leave your voicemail. It's very easy. So don't bother. But yeah, I think the worst pet peeve for me is basically bad marketing. Is literally bad marketing. Like you have no idea how many emails I got from like, hey, I hope you love Dreamforce. I wasn't there. I wasn't even there. So just because I visited the Dreamforce, so no, I got like probably 8 of them. Like I hope you had fun. This is what I learned about Dreamforce. No, like another one I got like, hello. Come on, man. My name, please, right? On the email, that's a pet peeve, and then when I reply back, unknown user. So like I got through that. So those kind of small things, but it's just very basic looking into bad marketing. That drives me crazy.
I'll blame our friends in the US for doing that.
Oh, it wasn't even Salesforce email. It's just people from vendors. They were Dreamforce saying like, I hope you enjoy Dreamforce. And,
Okay, so hey everyone. If we take a look at B2B complex sales over the past number of years, one of the big trends has been that buying groups have grown larger. And the other thing, of course, is at least in the tech world that where buying was a lot done by IT, it's now moved out to the line of business. So just a little bit of a different perspective with this question, which is not how you buy, but actually how you influence. And so I'm wondering if you can think back over the past number of years about whether you're being drawn into decisions on solutions that you maybe in past years you wouldn't have been, but your opinion's being solicited. And then the companion question of that is more from the sales perspective. How do you influence an influencer without pissing them off, right? Do you prefer that everything go through the champion or the point person? Or are you receptive as an influencer to hear from a salesperson?
Yeah, so I can touch on from a sales perspective. One of the most important things you can do as a salesperson is have an ally on the inside. So whether or not that person is actually, in some cases, if you're lucky, that ally who's kind of opening up to you and giving you the lay of the land in terms of who, what are the different personalities in the buying group, who actually holds the budget, all that type of stuff. In some cases, that is your mobilizer if you're the main person who's driving the deal. If that's not the case, then you need to find your ally, because if you don't have one, chances are, the other vendors that they're looking at, they probably have one on the inside. So that's definitely a really key thing, is getting someone who really trusts you, who you build a really strong relationship with, who's going to give you the inside scoop and the lay of the land, because as a salesperson, I mean, it's pretty clear here we have very little leverage. So the more that you can get a sense of the real story and who the stakeholders are in the buying group, and then you can figure out, do I need to send a personal video to this person because they're not being brought into conversations, but that's the ultimate decision maker. Really, or getting creative. We like to do a lot of stuff on Twitter with adding people to lists and stuff. So soft touches to people that are kind of out of your reach right now, getting on their radar. And a lot of times that ally on the inside is the person that's going to help you understand who you really need to get to.
I would say, for the salespeople that are here, do not underestimate the value and the importance of that influencer who is contacting you and looking for information. You have zero trust. You have negative 30 trust. You are 5 conversations from zero trust. And the person who went out and reached out to you to get information is working on behalf of an agent in that organization that has a tremendous amount of authority. And that person who's doing that reach out has trust. Do not piss them off. I've seen it. We just acquired a company that had a habit of doing the reach around where you do I'd like to find more information about your product. Then not call that person back and go to the CISO, which is one of the titles we sell to, and go 4 layers higher than that person to somehow influence the deal. It's a complete waste of time. Do not underestimate that person. They are going to map the entire organization. You will win 100% of your deals if you can develop a sales coach or a coach within that organization. So that's all I have to say.
So I just want to quickly caveat to say the ally piece, you have to ask for their permission if you're going to reach out to different stakeholders, right? That's really the key to Mark's point is, you shoot yourself in the foot. If you're talking to one person, you're asking that mobilizer who puts their hand up, they might drop some names. If you go out and reach out to those names right away, you're going to screw yourself over. But if you ask for permission and you're thoughtful about it, then that's a way to get on the radar of the key people.
Can I say one more thing? You don't own the sales process. It's their buying process. Respect it. Full stop. That's very important, I think, in sales.
All right, let's give it up for our panelists. Thank you so much. We do have a few gifts for you here, courtesy of Top Hat. We hope that we got your right t-shirt sizes. If not, let us know.
And thank you very much, everybody who helped organize this. Thank you to the host, thank you to the Macro Marketing Operations team.